Hi, Misha here.
And this is Jake.
And we appreciate you bearing with us while we took a little hiatus in September. For one, the weather's been crummy, and for another, Jay and I both had some, not bad personal stuff, just personal events. But hey, new fridge at least.
Yeah, it's a lot quieter, so
Yeah.
you don't have some white noise on your talk videos anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, we've had some stuff going on. We're working on a new Patreon tier system. We're just kind of clearing it with Patreon to make sure they don't jab us.
Yep.
So stay tuned for probably an announcement vid with the new perks within the next couple of weeks.
Yep. Yeah, the $1 stuff still stays as is, just $1 to ask questions during our Q&A periods, which we do about every other month. So, alright, you ready to get started?
Plus apparently means you can show up at my house for... Alright, we're getting good sound?
Yep, we're good.
Alrighty, so yeah, we've got a few questions, so we'll just start knocking them out.
Alright, the first one is from Angel. What are your thoughts on old military surplus guns that have been converted to take readily available ammo? For example, a Turkish 1893 that has been converted to take 8mm or a rechambered Arisaka for 30-06.
It depends who and what did the rechambering and obviously what it is. The 30-06 ones, there are some that were just done in the U.S. by American gunsmiths, so that has a lot to do with the quality. There were a large number done in Korea for the South Korean military. They are, generally speaking, safe to shoot, but not very accurate. So they'll go boom, but you'll be shooting about like I shoot for accuracy. So those are safe. It really gets into the Turkish ones I'm a little more suspect on, but that's because Turkish Mausers in general are can be suspect, especially headspace. I'd say with any Turk gun, even if it's original, check it out. But on the other hand, they're cheap. So
Right.
yeah.
So would you say you're pro or anti?
I think it's cool. There are some, like the Ishapur 2A, 2A1s, the Enfields, that were purpose-built as 7.62 NATO. Those are great. Those are a lot of fun. The Israeli K98 is probably my favorite. They did an excellent job of, they put a whole new barrel in it. They actually blocked the magazine off for the shorter cartridge. Those are totally safe. I would say look at the pressures of the original cartridge, and as long as the rechambered is the same or less, you're good to go.
Okay.
They can be a lot of fun, but they usually don't bring as much money.
Angel's second question. Do you guys think it is worth it to pay a higher premium for antique firearms to avoid the hassle of an FFL?
That's what I was going to bring out, an antique. Oh, well. I like antique guns, but most of them aren't something you would use as a shooter. For one thing, they usually fire obsolete or black powder rounds. I'm trying to think of a good one. Like a Craig Jorgensen, you can get those as antique, and they're generally speaking safe to fire, but the problem is once you get to pre-1899 guns, which are basically pre-Mauser Model 98, the actions aren't as strong. So if you're going to do it, I would recommend buying known to be light-loaded ammo, and if you get original ammo, most of it is no longer reliable or functional because it's just degraded.
Yeah.
I would say if you're going to get them more as a collectible than a shooter.
Sure. Or hand load.
Yeah, and if you do, just kind of see what the specs are and maybe download by 10%, because if it's a bolt action, it's not like you're having to worry about cycling.
Right.
So
Sure.
I would go light versus heavy.
Paper Plane Crash says, hey guys, with the new wave of Beretta 81s that came in...
I like that name, by the way.
Yeah, same here. It got me to wondering, what other prospective surplus slash police trade-ins would you guys like to see get imported in? Are there any outdated, quote-unquote, service arms that you see being a possibility of being replaced elsewhere in the world that could end up in the U.S. in the near future? Thanks, and keep up the good work.
What would you like to see?
I would like to see any modern military sidearms, really, because we got a lot of stuff from the late Soviet era. So your the
Makarovs,
Tokarevs. I'm trying to think of the P80.
The Polish one?
Yes.
P83.
P83. Thank you.
The WANAD.
Yes. So things like that were a lot of times in really good condition and extremely shootable with ammo that you could very easily get a hold of. We've also been seeing things like, the Berettas, you mentioned the 81.
Mm-hmm. Been the 84, 85s I've seen. And
yep.
I own one of the 32s, and it's a fun little gun.
The 92Ss, things like that.
Oh, those are excellent.
Yeah, those are really cool. So anything that pushed us more into modern use.
So you're thinking like more either double stack or alloy frames, or at least 9mm. I would agree. But we've seen a lot from the comm blocks, say Tokarev, Makarov chambered guns. But after the fall of communism, between 89 and 92, depending on which nation you're in, most of them went to a more modern 9mm, be it polymer or steel or alloy frame. Sometimes they were just copies. And like we were discussing before, it would be neat to see, Romanian or some of the modern Poland has gone to modern guns, or I'd love to see the modern Russian guns. Not that that's probably ever going to happen.
Right.
But yeah, just the current stuff. And it seems funny, but communism ended 30 years ago, so current is kind of relative. I would say post-Cold War.
Sure.
Era, anything.
Right. Yeah, I was just looking through the Romanian arms list to see what the current issue sidearm is, and I'm not seeing it. So if any of you guys know, post it up in the comments.
I know I've read it, and it is a gun, but I also know the Tokarev has kind of remained in at least secondary use. It stuck around for a long time, but it's a 9mm, 15 shot something. Yeah. And then they've bought and licensed produced a lot of things in Romania as well.
Right. Yeah, stuff like that would be cool.
Yeah. Agreed.
I can't think of any specific examples, though, of ones that I know are probably right on the verge.
Yeah, one I really liked that came in for a while was the Bulgarian Arcus 98. That's a service gun, and those were really awesome buys for the money. And there was the earlier 94, which was more of a high-power clone. Yeah. And that's kind of, most of your modern guns are a clone or variant copy to some extent of an existing something.
Right. Yep. Alrighty. James says, hi guys, first of all, really enjoyed the top 7 today underappreciated guns video.
That was fun to make.
Yeah, it was. Since watching that, I picked up the CZ805 Bren S1, carbine and pistol, plus the Beretta ARX 100. I knew very little about these two guns before watching your video, so thanks for recommending them. You're quite welcome. We're glad to see other people are.
And you kind of see what we say. Most people don't know a lot about them, but most people that own them, like us, and now I bet you really enjoy them.
Yeah.
Not to put words in your mouth.
Please continue to do more of these type of videos. Yep, or something we're discussing for sure. On to my question. I purchased the 308 and 7.62x39 IWI Galil Ace rifles back when they were offered at $1,000. At the time of purchase, I was told because they were being marketed as B stock because they supposedly had some sort of manufacturer defect or blemish. I've yet to find any blemishes or defects with the ones I purchased. What was the actual defect? And if no defect, why the huge price drop? Thanks, Jim.
Do you have anything to say before I...
No, go ahead. I'm curious.
The defect was the price. See, IWI has a very aggressive department. There's almost a full-time employee that enforces price mapping. They demand that distributors sell at this price and that retail dealers advertise at this price. Mm-hmm. You can literally be 5 cents below once I accidentally was, and they will jump all over you and put you on a no-sale list. Problem was, they were also selling to every distributor under the sun. Meaning their guns were there was no competition to let the price kind of settle where the market thought it should be. Meaning at one point there was tons of stock and no one was buying. Well, they can't break their own price map deal, so they quote unquote made them blims so they could sell below map price.
Gotcha.
It was totally an in run around to get around their legal and contractual stuff.
Interesting.
Because they backed themselves into a corner. Price mapping, guys, it's not a good idea. No. It damages the free market, and if a gun is worth what it's worth, that's where the money... Look at arsenals, for example. They never really have to worry about price mapping because they sell out.
Right.
And if IWI had let the Galil kind of find its place in the market, they wouldn't have been overstocked by several thousand.
Right. Yeah, they ended up being something like thousands of units, I think, that they had.
Oh, it was crazy. Hundreds, I know, at least. Yeah, I don't know.
We were able to, I mean, they were there for quite a while.
Yeah, and they had batches, too. It wasn't just one. And it was the three, you know, the 7.6239 I kind of got because it was the first one out.
Yep.
But the 308 amazed me.
Was crazy.
Yeah, because like dealer cost was $1,600 with map price set at $1,900 on that critter. And then now they're selling them for $989. Retail, not even dealer.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yep.
Not.
Travis Cole says, "Hey Misha and Jay, I appreciate answering all the questions you've asked. You're asked. Sorry, I appreciate you answering all the questions you're asked. That makes much more sense.
It does
grammatically. I recently got a Car 98K, and now I have an itch for more Mausers. I'm sorry, he's got the Mauser itch.
It does.
Could you guys possibly make a video on the Chilean 1912 Mausers? I'm seeing them for a great price, and I've read some conflicting things about them. I'd like to know Misha's thoughts on them, if he has any, specifically the ones rechambered for 7.62 real NATO.
Those were rechambered in the 50s, kind of around the same time as those Israelis, because that was what Chile was going to. Much like Israel, they were going to the FAL and whatnot, so they are professionally done with new barrels and everything. They're, generally speaking, safe to shoot. The original guns, I believe, were mostly made by Steyr. And that's really, there's not a lot of story to be told. Those South American guns, be they Argentinian, Venezuelan, Colombian, they're usually just built in Europe by Germany or FN or Steyr. They're usually a very high quality because they were made under peacetime and made for a contract. And most of them saw little to no use. Some of them saw use by being carried around. Some of them are used in a few skirmishes, but basically there's not a lot of history there, and that's why the price has never been commensurate with the German stuff. Very well made, but they're just another Mauser.
Right.
So generally speaking, I'd say the 308s or 7.62 NATOs are fine. They don't go for a huge amount of money. I saw one here back in May, early June in the store for $250, $300. You know, good value. I mean, excellent gun.
Yeah. All right. The next question is from Andrew. What pocket knives do you use, carry, and maybe even collect? I'm gonna let you go first.
I don't really have pocket. I mean, I have pocket knives, but I use them to open boxes. So most of them are box cutters or literally pocket knives on my keychain.
So you're primarily a box cutter guy, then, huh?
Yeah, I'm a cutter.
Andrew, I'm so glad you asked. I actually am a self-described knife guy, so I have
even professionally.
I have a few dozen knives, and of course you guys have seen me with the kukri videos. Those are ones that I keep in my vehicle for machete use, effectively. As far as pocket knives, though, I brought 3 of my favorite ones that I carry most often. So first I'll start off with this Microtech. This is a Microtech Ultratech. It's probably going to be a little bit hard to see from this far back on camera, but you probably already know what an Ultratech looks like. Now, the state of Arkansas doesn't have any laws or anything restricting what type of knives you can carry, so the automatic knives, valley songs, gravity knives, switchblades, etc. are all legal to carry in Arkansas. So,
I will say that one thing I learned, I do sell the Microtechs too, because one of my good distributors carries them.
Yep.
And selling guns is a bit of a pain, going state to state by law. Mm-hmm. Nothing compared with knives.
No, I'm sure. But we have local dealers and stuff that carry these all day. So, but anyway, this one is purple, as you may be able to tell on the camera. I like Prince, don't at me. And it's
my dog was named Prince.
Pretty stiff firing blade, like not as easy to pull as the Benchmade Infidel, I believe is that one is called. But I really like how svelte it is. It's got this really lightweight aluminum body, and so it's a really good pocket EDC knife. Also a little bit pricey, so if I know I'm going to be doing a lot of box cutting, like we were opening ammo crates a little bit earlier in the day, something like this is the Camillus Cuda Mini. This is a sub $25 knife, but what I really like about it is, as you can kind of see, it's got this little bit of a half moon or half circle track that the thumb stud fits in. So all you have to do really is just push up on that stud, and it flicks right open. So it's not spring assisted or anything, but it's really smooth and easy to open with one hand. And being as cheap as it is, like I said, typically under $25, I can stab boxes with it for a long time. It holds its edge pretty well, and I don't really have to worry about breaking or losing it because it's not super
Where
expensive.
are those made?
These are made in China.
Okay.
Yeah. So basic liner lock. I mean, this is pretty much a big box store knife. So basic liner lock, G10 handle, AOS 8 steel, all that stuff. And then finally, basically the type of knife that I carry will depend on what I'm wearing and what I'm going to be doing that day. So for example, if I'm coming over to Misha's and I know I'm going to be opening a lot of boxes, I'll grab something probably a little bit cheaper. I don't mind cutting cardboard and tape with. If I'm doing something like wearing dress pants, where pocket space might be a little more of a consideration, something, or if I'm traveling for that matter, something the Microtech may not be great for. I have a couple of these. These are Japanese Higo no Kami. These actually have a really interesting history. They started making these in Japan in 1896, and they, as far as I know, have been made pretty much the same way this whole time. It's a very basic friction folder. So there's this little stud here that you can see. Basically, you're meant to hold against that to keep the blade locked open. No type of fancy locking mechanism or opening assists on it or anything like that. And they're really cool looking, I think. They kind of have this Tonto style blade to them, and then a folded brass handle. So really neat. The thing about not having all these fancy locks and open assists and all that stuff is the knife is extremely slim. You can see there. So I can slip this in my pocket and totally forget that I even have a knife on me. So, which is pretty nice if, you know, pocket space is a concern or consideration. So,
Plus, there's an elegance to simplicity.
Yeah, for sure. Seems like it would be a good hipster knife. So if you're a hipster, you can carry around your knife that looks like it was made over 100 years ago at this point, because that's pretty much when they were designed.
Mm-hmm.
But high carbon steel, they rust super easy. You got to keep them a little bit oiled. But yeah, that's a small sampling. Like I said, I have a few dozen at home, and what I grab will depend on a lot of factors. But those are probably my 3 favorite knives to shove in the pocket for EDC. So,
kind of like with guns, there's not a one size fits all. I mean, it depends what you're doing, where you're going, what you're wearing, who you're with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why I don't have just, one carry gun either. It's sometimes they have that little mini 22.
Yeah.
Because
Right. Well, there's a certain element too with the collecting part is, they might function differently. They might have a different type of mechanism, lock, style, all that stuff. So,
and there's a huge collector market for knives too. I mean, some knives I've had them in the store worth several hundreds, even thousands of dollars. And then you get into like swords, like traditional Japanese swords.
Right. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Andrew. Alrighty. Do we want to take a quick break and then come back?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Well, we're going to stop the camera. I'm going to get up and run across the kitchen awkwardly like I normally do. And then we'll come right back.
Alrighty, we're back, guys.
Yep. Okay. We're just going to pick up right where we left off. We had a good long 3-week break there. Recover from answering all those questions and are feeling recharged.
We haven't changed clothes in 3 weeks.
No, that's kind of weird.
You're glad it's not smell-o-vision.
Yeah,
it's reeks.
Okay, Aki says, "Hi Misha and Jay. Thank you for all of your work. First, I thought I'll give you some feedback. I don't really care for the latest imported AKs, but that's your thing. Why I really watch your channel is because of the lengthy talks about some older firearms, history, evolution, comparison, story times. I know I can find more esoteric firearms on forgotten weapons, but Ian's always in a hurry to look at anything and everything, and that's his thing. You always take your time describing and talking about things that somehow got onto your desk in your impressions. Now for the question. Misha, the blindness thing again. Are you or do you feel ready and comfortable to defend yourself or your home with a firearm? As stated on another channel, not about you specifically, You might have an advantage in total darkness.
Well, you've seen Rogue One, and the blind guy with the staff.
No one saw Rogue One.
No, yeah, I appreciate everything, and we get it. We would honestly like to, I mean, we do like AKs, no fakeness there, but we would do more old videos if, for one thing, they take more time and they just don't get the views, and you know how it goes. And it's a personal interest thing, but I also understand that to a lot of people, they almost have an attitude of, you see one old gun, you've seen them all.
Sure.
But yeah, we have been kind of trying to do a few more. As far as home defense, I brought out here something that I've had since these came out. Now this is my original Walther PPS M1. It's kind of been retired to the safe because of the M2 that came out a few years ago. But I've found this is a great gun for my size. It's very reliable, and honestly, it was the first of its type, being a slimline 9. They also have done these in 40. But what I like about it, and of course others have copied it now, but I like the ambi mag release. This is the 6-round mag, which is great for pocket carry. But it also has other mags. If I can grab the right one, we have a 7-round, which kind of gives a compact grip, like a Glock 19, and an 8-round mag, which actually gives you a full-size grip, so you have an 8+1 capacity. This is a great home defense configuration, in my opinion. These even came with interchangeable back straps, just 2, big and small. So neat little customizable gun, metal sights. You can get these with night sights. Had the Picra. I've been a big fan of Walthers, and actually I first saw these, I was in Ulm, Germany in the summer of 2007, right before these came out in the US of A, saw one there, and then when the first ones hit American shores that late fall, I picked one up immediately. And that one, the original one I bought, I actually went to a family member who needed a gun, and I just picked up another one, but I found it to be very good. I'm not as big of, I mean, shotguns are a decent home defense gun, but I've always preferred handguns just because rifles are a little bulky and pistols are a little more up close, and that's kind of my tactic, yeah, in the dark. And being in my home especially, I do have the home field advantage. Also, a handgun you can just kind of get up, and at the end of the day, no one really expects someone with a disability, or for that matter, a woman oftentimes, to be armed and reasonably proficient with the weapon. So there's always the element of surprise. But yeah, no, doing what I do and living where I live, there's always something nearby, kind of just scattered around. Plus, there aren't kids running around, so
sure,
it's something not to worry about.
Yeah, I want to go back to the non-question part of this, which was the, about the AKs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like you mentioned, the AKs do incredible for us as far as, well, incredible as much as incredible is for us, which is, usually a few thousand views. They do 300% more than what any of the other videos we do are. And it's something that Misha is just known for, as being an AK guy, right?
Yep.
So,
well, and I have been. I mean, I picked them, started buying them, and
that's how I met you, was picking up a Romanian.
Actually, like this is a current build that we've got a video coming on. But yeah.
Yeah. So, the good news for you though is you being one of the 3 people that watch our other our historic videos, is that this channel has always been about what we wanted to do and things that we wanted to show off. Running across guns, like you said, that come across in the store that
sure,
Mitch's got, and things that people might not see all the time, or might see all the time and not know much about. So because that the motivation for this channel is more doing things that we like to do, we're just going to keep doing videos. It doesn't matter if they get 12 views. Yeah, and then for the folks like you and some of the folks, I know that there's some Japanese collectors and stuff that are way into those videos.
Which is my kind of thing.
Yeah, you're really in the minority by a long shot there, but also that's fine.
And kind of more of that's really how I got into guns, was the old guns. One thing, they were just very affordable in the 90s, early 2000s, but they're very interesting. They're a rabbit hole. It seems like, oh, it's I'll get one Japanese, I'll get one Russian, but then you realize
I had no interest in getting any Japanese rifles, and now I have 2.
Remember that night at my place years ago, back before we moved, and I got all the Jap ones out, and then I did like a thing by thing comparison, trying to show you the devolution of the Type 99, really, which we have a video on where I lay them all.
I remember that very clearly, in spite of the state that I was in by the time we got to that point in the evening. But.
Liquor, guys, not. Yeah. Don't worry, it was only liquor.
It was only alcohol.
But there probably wasn't a whole. Probably wasn't a single 7.7 round on the whole property. Thing
about it is the ammo was not present.
No, I don't think even the cheap stuff was out there. But no, we do, and we do have some ideas. It's just obviously there's no new old guns, so you kind of hit a wall. But there's always revisiting. So
right,
yeah.
All right, Steven says, "Keep up the good work, guys. Thank you." 2 questions. 1, how do you know if an old Milsurp bolt-action rifle is safe to shoot? For instance, I recently found a Spanish M1916 Mauser, 7mm Mauser, with a pristine bore but covered in some pretty bad-looking pitting. Should examples like this be taken to a gunsmith, or are there some other tricks / cues to help determine if a gun is safe to fire? So we'll go ahead and answer that first question before we move on to the second one.
How is it safe to fire? Really, shoot it. And I don't mean that any other way. You're going to have a hard time knowing. I mean, you can definitely check the receiver for cracks, check the bolt lugs for cracks, check the bore for anything major.
Yeah. If it was something that I was really on the fence on, I would take it to a gunsmith. Just to be on the safe side.
If I was on the fence, I just wouldn't shoot it. Because it's those old guns. The thing about gunsmiths, if you're going to pick one, make sure you have one that is knowledgeable about old guns. Yes. Because gunsmiths specialize. You might have a guy that's fantastic with 1911s, knows nothing about Mausers.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So I would make sure he's known for it.
Yeah, and that would be my thing is, granted, I have connections because I know Misha, so obviously I would be able to get somebody that we trusted to look at it and give their opinion on it. But yeah, if there was something I was on the fence on, I would check first.
Yeah, and I usually with old guns don't buy them with the primary purpose of shooting them.
Sure.
And I have plenty of modern guns. I mean, if you just want to shoot a bolt action, Remington, Ruger, Savage, they all make excellent. And frankly, the newer guns are probably going to be more accurate, more reliable, and frankly, safer. Any old gun has the potential. You might shoot it 1,000 times, and on the 1,001st, you gotta remember, these are old guns with unknown histories.
Yep. And then his second question, hypothetical. What is the latest point in history that a major army would be better equipped with Ruger 1022s with 25-round mags than their actual standard issue rifles, machine guns, and artillery and such staying the same?
I want to say one thing. This gun is on the table for a very specific reason regarding safety of shooting. I'm going to do a separate video on it, but check it out because it's going to be a very interesting story. It even had my very experienced gunsmith going, I've never seen that before. So check that out. Okay, I'll let you answer the
hypothetical. What is the latest point? Okay, so basically I think what you're saying is at what point would a Ruger 1022 with a 25-round mag, everything else being equal, be effective in a battlefield scenario as a hypothetical? This is a very interesting question to me because obviously there's not going to be any right answers.
But no wrong either.
No. So my first thought was probably like black powder, cap and ball, and I'm thinking up to early, I would say immediately pre-smokeless powder.
So
I would say it would probably be the latest.
1870s, 1880s.
Sure, right. Like I think
American Indian War period, like the trapdoor.
I think even maybe around Civil War and a little after probably would be about the most you would get.
I'm going to say a little earlier because I think by the time you get post-Civil War, you do have breech loaders, and most of the guns are going to be rifled.
Yep.
So you're going to outrange the 22.
Right.
And you're going to be hitting them pretty hard.
Yep.
The thing is, also back then, especially when it's not summer, but even in summer, people wore a lot of thick woolen clothing.
Yeah, sure.
Not to mention the crust of dirt from not bathing.
No. We were afraid that was going to happen. Sorry about that, guys.
But so you'd have to be relatively close to really put some hurt on them, at least immediately, to put them out of action. You definitely would probably crack a bone or give them gangrene, but that's going to take some time, so unless you're playing the long game. So I would say early Civil War. I would also say there's a psychological factor. Are we pulling some time cop shit here where they've never seen a Ruger 1022 and they're just, afraid of it, like witchcraft? Or is it something they're familiar with, they just don't have?
Right.
So that if you do or don't have that psychological advantage.
So we had this discussion when we read this question, because we kind of read through the questions initially just to kind of make sure we understand the question and are kind of prepared to answer it. So we actually already started talking about this earlier. Sorry, it was a pretty good question. My suggestion was something like Boer War, where you're dealing with a native population or something along those lines, where like the Gatling gun was used to great effect, and the one side of that isn't exactly heavily armored or clothed, for that matter. So I could see that working pretty well.
I'm thinking about like naked painted Scottish tribesmen now, right?
That could be effective in Braveheart times.
Yeah, definitely would be. Yeah, definitely go back. I think once you get to breech loaders, it would lose, because then it's still firing faster, but the range would work against you. Yeah, I think, but the breech loader, they could get off a lot of good shots.
Yeah, you'd almost have to be like real close in guerrilla type warfare, which wasn't super common yet at that point.
No, and also keep in mind a lot of 1022s, especially high cap mags, aren't the most reliable. So if you jam up,
sure.
Yeah. Fun thought experiment, though.
Yeah.
Be even more fun with drinks.
True.
Yeah.
But we don't mix alcohol on guns. Alrighty.
Of course not. The guns would never melt in the alcohol.
Right.
Sit there.
Be weird.
Horrible.
It wouldn't taste good anymore.
No, a very bad gun lubricant.
Alrighty. So Darren has a string here. Thanks, Darren. Darren, you've been with us for a while now. I appreciate that. Any word on the Buren 2? I wrote to them a few weeks ago, and they said they are still waiting on them to show up on a shipping manifest. Until then, it's only a trickle. They don't have a good way to predict the first production shipments. Do you have any other info or dates? I'm really wanting those. Wish I would have got one of the mill versions that you guys have. I
really don't know. I was actually talking with Tim about this, and he said he did pick up a 2MS, but even he had to go into Gunbroker and buy one. So, no, I can't, no. There's no real word one way or the other.
Next question from Darren. Is the Buren 2 better than the Scar 16 in your opinion?
Yes.
Yes. I legitimately think the Buren 2 is a Scar killer. I would personally even take an 805 over the Scar. The margins are much narrower there as far as function goes, but having handled the Scar quite a bit, and also the 805 and now the Buren 2 is to me head and shoulders above.
Yeah, the Buren 2 versus Scar, I can't think of a single way the Scar is clearly superior. Even with the 805, the only place I can really see the Scar beating it is in weight, but then the Buren 1 beats it with trigger pull, having modular magwell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's we like the Buren 2 a whole lot, and hope that does really well.
And price,
price
even the Buren 2 is cheaper.
Is so much better than the Scar. I ended up just giving up on ever having a Scar and kind of did a Scar dress up on my 805, and I'm fine with that. So
I think that's what most militaries did too.
Random question, also from Darren. Have you ever taken the Arkansas-Missouri Railroad train from Springdale to Van Buren? I took the ride a few weeks ago, and it was pretty cool.
Took it in reverse. I took the Van Buren to Springdale one back when it opened up.
That's not what he asked.
Oh, okay. Back whenever that opened, I was quite younger, so whenever that opened, what was that, 20 years-ish?
I have no idea.
25 years ago? Yeah, so 20, 25 years. I took it when it was relatively new. Yeah.
My wife has been on it. She's from this area, or from the Van Buren area as well. And, she said she's done it. I would like to at some point.
Go in the fall. It's nice, just kind of chill.
Darren again. I know that you guys regularly shoot steel case bimetal, aka steel projectile, in many of your firearms, Wolf, Tula, etc. Some firearms owners do not shoot anything but more expensive copper projectile ammo, even in their AKs, to prevent premature rifling and barrel wear. I can see their point on some no longer imported AKs and some more rare firearms. Where do you fall in this discussion?
I'll let you take that first.
I have seen studies from manufacturers who make both brass and steel, especially focused on brass, that have said that you aren't going to really start to see a difference in wear between the two until you get into many tens of thousands of rounds. So we're talking maybe 50,000 rounds with brass and 40,000 with steel.
And that's more of an extreme.
Yes.
I would say that some guns are even made for steel and work better, or even only work with steel, because it does have some properties that brass doesn't. I just picked up the T91 because it's out for a different video, but it's one of my favorites. But it's just a good example here because we mostly shoot steel out of our T91s. But, Tim did a great video kind of debunking the myth of if you shoot brass and then go steel, go back to brass, it'll cause issues. That's BS. That's completely. And yes, brass will put a little less wear on your gun than steel, but understand this: every time you shoot your gun, no matter with what ammo, you are putting wear on it. Yeah. So if you don't want to put wear in your gun, never shoot it.
Right. I was at a range shooting a service rifle competition, actually, and was talking to an old timer that was there about cleaning his competition guns, and he said he rarely cleans them. And I said, why is it? I was very surprised here. I figured they would be scrubbing them out every match and all that stuff. This a few years back. And he said, rarely cleans them. He said, I've seen more bores damaged with a cleaning rod than ever from a bullet. And so I think from what I know about it and from my experience so far, I almost feel like I won't ever see a point where on any one of my guns realistically where I really wish I would have been shooting brass instead of steel that whole time.
And he's right too. If you look at a lot of old bolt actions, the reason so many of them, especially a lot of your Mausers, are counterbored is because the muzzle rifling was just worn away by steel. So we would recommend, if you're going to do a cleaning rod, we like the kind of the fiberglass, the nylon, the brass at the very most. It's just steel rods are hell on your muzzle. And if you have to use one of those little guides, little protectors.
I could see it being more of a concern if I were taking the same AR out to the range every weekend.
Sure.
And it might be something, but even with an AR, I mean, and with the money you save buying steel over brass, you could probably just buy a new upper, a new barrel.
Yeah, just barrel. And then the ARs especially are great for rebarreling. Yeah, sure. That's what I tell customers too, is if you can afford to shoot it out, you can afford to buy a new one.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not a matter of if, it's when. Okay, we make it 45,000 instead of 50. Still got to replace it.
Right.
Still going to hit that point.
Yeah. Yep.
So no, we don't really worry about it.
No.
We do shoot brass, but steel works great, and we don't reload. That's the one area, if you're a reloader, that's where brass maybe comes into play.
Yeah. Yeah, with the volume. I've actually recently had somebody try to talk me into all the money I would save if I reloaded. Like, yeah, but with the amount of time I would have to take, especially for the amount that we shoot, because we should shoot in such heavy quantities, it would be hours and hours of reloading. And I just, for me, it's not worth.
No, and it only takes one messed up reload to blow up a gun, and if you blow up one gun, there went all the savings.
Right.
So yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, for old bolt actions and stuff that I were shooting, I would probably stick with something a little more higher quality. But
sure,
again, for most of those old bolt actions, you're pretty well stuck into buying, brass anyway.
I would say for them, just not using corrosive which is why I don't shoot a lot of surplus ammo.
Kaysen says, also another long-time guy in here. Hey guys, what are your thoughts on the Army's next generation squad weapon program to replace the M4 and M249 with new models, which will fire a unique composite cased 6.8 millimeter round? Is this just the latest case of, well, we've got to do something with all this money, or is Uncle Sam finally going to bite the bullet and upgrade its carbines and saws? Is an update even needed? In my opinion, this is him saying this, not me. In my opinion, the saw has been too troublesome and needs to go. but I'm not sure on the M4. Plus, going to composite cases seems questionable considering that the technology hasn't really been tested on a wide scale. Thanks, and keep up the great work.
Yeah, it's just a money thing. All you have to do is Google the number of programs, especially if they have the word joint in front of them. But the thing is, as we've said and other people have said, I mean, the M4 works, and while there are moderately better guns out there, there's nothing that's a quantum leap forward. And the U.S. military has invested so much, not just in the guns themselves, but spare parts, magazines, training for their armors, and just familiarizing their troops with it, that they're not going to spend that much time and money re-equipping until they absolutely have a reason to do so.
Yeah. I was just going through the article that he posted on here. This feels like vaporware to me. Like, well, there's all typical contract. Send out a call for them to build something, and then they test it, and it doesn't. And
militaries have always done that. It's almost like a technology check just to see what's out there, and manufacturers like it because they get to show off their new wares. And even if America doesn't buy, maybe someone else will. Right. If nothing else, they make a few bucks. I think it's just it's in that sense, everyone who participates, it's in their advantage to do it, but I don't think anyone thinks they're really going to buy. And here's another thing I've noticed, people. If a spec ops unit, SOCOM, SEALs, whatever, buys 500 of something or even 1,000, then the next thing, oh, so-and-so is adopting this. Well, sort of. They bought a few, but they also have tens of thousands of other guns at their disposal.
Yeah. So. I was under the impression that they would move more towards the M27 IAR away from the SAW if they were going to go that direction.
Yeah, there's a bunch of talk about, all the HK 416 derivatives, including the M27. That's a Marine thing specifically.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, at least there's precedent with that one.
Yeah,
That's a real gun that exists.
Well, and it's the Marine Corps. It's the smallest branch, so it's a relatively small purchase when you're talking about light machine guns for the smallest branch.
Okay, so... Joe, is there an estimate of actual Chinese Type 59 Makarovs that actually made it into the country? I occasionally see commercial Norinco Makarovs, but they have always been significantly cheaper than military ones. Other than markings, is there any difference? Thank you for doing questions and putting together enjoyable content. Thank you, Joe.
Well, I don't have a surplus one, but I've got a commercial one here, and these didn't actually start coming into the late 80s. Markings are different. The biggest difference is the thumb rest grip. That was done for complying with the point systems. Most Makarovs either come in with a thumb rest grip or a target sight. The good thing about the thumb rest grip, you can easily remove it with one screw, put on a standard grip, so it's a minor mod just to comply with import. But no, basically they're the same gun. I don't know that many of these came in because these were just going into action during Vietnam, and that's where most of your bring-back Tokarevs and stuff have come from. So, I don't know how many. With most bringbacks, there's really no estimate unless there's an official registry like for machine guns.
Yeah.
We actually just put up a little update shooting video for this one too.
Yeah.
Why not? It's fun. It's a nice little Makarov.
Joe says, Do you have any word if Hungary, FEG, or Poland, WBP, are still planning on producing and importing legitimate SVDs, or is it just a rumor? I feel that the domestic supply has been rather bland for the past few years, and any new/cool import would be a breath of fresh air.
Totally agree with you about the blandness and new import. We know directly from last year, just under a year ago, WBP told us that an SVD was something they were looking into.
Right.
The reason I don't think we've seen them is cost. To build one today, to import it, they're going to be, if you think the PSL is expensive now, which is $2,000-3,000.
Yeah, which already was up and running on production lines.
Yeah, and I just don't know after the initial guys that got to have them, what'll happen. And you know what'll happen, as always. If they bring in new SVDs, people say, oh, they're not as good as the old ones. Right. They're not as good as the Chinese or the Russian ones that came in the 80s. Right. It's not as good as a pre-ban. So I think it's just more of a, and it's not that accurate of a gun. I mean, it's a DMR, it's fine, but it's not a sub-MOA, it's not a sniper rifle.
Right.
So I think a lot of folks, if they were just buying them as shooters, would frankly be a little disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to see it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Personally, this would be something I'd be. But yeah, it's not anything more than, hey, this is a thing we'd like to do type of a thing. But
you got to remember, those are rarely made outside of Russia. Most countries just bought them from Russia because they only needed a few hundred. So why set up production?
Yeah, I would be fine with a Tabuk style, with like a longer 7.62 by 39 with a longer barrel.
That's basically just a Yugo M72 RPK that's kind of been with a light barrel, and
that'd be cool. I mean, like a 7.62 by 39 DMR would be cool, and that would be easier for them to get into with what they're already doing.
You know, there is the original AES 10B, or excuse me, the AES 10, not the B.
Oh, sure.
It had the longer barrel than
Right.
Yeah.
Sean says, your thoughts on Colt's rise and fall of an empire? I personally think it's past the point of being able to come back.
I would agree, but every month I'm surprised they're still kicking. Of course, they've been in the news this week, so...
Yeah.
They've always had a bit of a rocky history. They've never been as financially stable as some other companies.
Yeah,
but
it's interesting to see all of the company challenges, we'll say, to put it lightly, that they've had. Yeah,
most of their own making, but it is a hard time.
Yeah.
And the fact they haven't had any new products or even major revisions, they're really trying to coast on their existing stuff.
Are you saying that their M16A1 for $2,500 wasn't enough to turn them around?
I bought two. I don't know. Yeah, right hand and a left hand. No, that was ridiculous. Especially, and the timing was horrible. If they had done it 10 years ago, maybe, but with the Brownells and the Troys out for
Brownells are
so much less.
Yeah.
It's the worst timing imaginable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even the parts kits, the A1 kits are out there. Build your own if you don't want to buy that.
There's been some good deals.
And those will all be Colts except for the lower.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that much about it. I mean, I've heard about the bankruptcies and all that stuff, and I don't know too much more other than that. But yeah, it just doesn't.
I know they've laid off a lot of people, and they don't build a whole lot in-house anymore, and they're just... It's almost like a mercy kill.
Some firm will sweep in and buy the name and then make stuff that's not real Colt with the name on it.
They'll pull either an Armorlight or a Springfield, or they'll do at least like Remington, where they still exist, but they got bought out, new management. Yep. And maybe that's the best thing, because the current management isn't really into it.
Yep. Okay, Steve says, what would be an authentic sling for my Vepr 12 SBS, and where would I get it? Thanks, by the way, for the great videos and reviews. Thanks, Steve.
Sure, Steve. This isn't a Vepr. This is my Sega 12 LE, but it's got just a standard modern Russian sling on it, which is fine for your basics. This one, I think, is the green one. There's also a kind of a bluish gray one that's more of a navy. You can do that. Or you can do, they use more modern tactically slings. I don't know how many are actually made in Russia and how many are just imported, but on my own Vepr 12, I've got a modern black Bulgarian, but essentially it's just the same 2-point, or you could do like the 2-3-point style, but nothing real fancy, basically just regular AK sling.
Yep.
Whatever you like, really.
Yeah. Alrighty, Jonathan says, thank you guys, always loved your videos. My YouTube name is CZ805. Love you guys, keep up the awesome videos. Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, we've both seen where it's like, oh yeah, CZ805. We've noticed that, we've seen that.
I wonder if he likes the 805.
I would probably not. It's probably a parody account.
Yeah, it's troll.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. I really appreciate that. Thanks for your support. Angel says, what are your thoughts of firearms that have been converted to accept more readily available ammo? Did I cover this already?
I think so. We cycled back around to the front, because I remember Angel's with the front.
Yes, we have.
That's funny.
Yeah, so Angel, your question's on here twice. So sorry. Yeah. Hopefully you got what you needed out of the first one.
Still thinking they're pretty cool.
Okay, so here's a new one from Angel. Sorry to ask another question, but do you think it's worth it to pay a slightly higher premium for an antique status rifle?
Yeah, you asked that one too.
For historical value, not quite the same thing.
You asked the.
So the first one was, do you think it's worth it to pay a premium for antique firearms to avoid the hassle of an FFL?
Okay.
This one is, for an antique status rifle for historical value. If it's worth it to pay a premium for it for historical value. And he says, i.e. a finished Mosin.
I mean, would I pay more for a finished Mosin that has a receiver from 1894 versus a receiver from 1910? No, but that's because with a finished gun, the only historical part left is the receiver. They're rebuilt, rebarreled. Now, if you're talking about what I want, an early version Arasaka versus later, sure, I love early initial versions of things.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, for me, this question is probably a little less directly answerable because for me, it depends on what I want. So if there is something very specific that I'm going for that's
sure.
a little bit older, has this particular style or whatever it happens to be, or this is a rare model that I've always wanted in light for whatever reason, then yeah, I'll pay more to get that one specifically. So, but you're in the same boat if you can get one weird variant that you don't have that's missing.
I guess I don't buy based on if they're pre-1899 or not.
It's the antique status part that.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, the pre-1899. Yeah. But I mean, I'm looking more for the model, the variant. Sure. So if a cleaner 1900 one's available, like Craig's a good example. If I could get a cleaner 1900 made Craig Jorgensen versus 1898, I'll probably go for the 1900.
Right.
Because I guess condition and variation matters more.
So all things being equal, so say you have a Russian Mosin Nagant rifle, 9130, and then you have a Finnish Capture 9130, and then you have a Polish. Did they make 9130s?
Poland,
M44s.
They did M44s. I don't think they did 9130s. I think that was Czechoslovakia made some.
Okay, so
they used them. They issued them.
Yeah,
for sure.
Right. Okay, so say you have a Czechoslovakian one. Mm-hmm. Which one do you pick out of those three?
Again, I would probably go with condition or whatever variation I was looking for. And again, most of the Finnish ones, the only old parts, the receiver, mostly the barrels are much later, 20s, gotcha. 30s, 40s dated.
So country wouldn't necessarily factor into...
What am I looking for? Do I want Finnish? Do I want Russian? I mean, if I'm starting off and I only have one Mosin, I would probably get the Russian one, because it's the standard.
So if you were after a Russian, and say the Russian was twice as high, this is all super hypothetical.
Yeah,
obviously this is
kind of
accurate.
I don't think I've ever really thought about it.
If it was way higher than the other two, but you really wanted the Russian, you would still spend the extra and get the Russian. If
I really wanted it, yes, because I know if I didn't, I wouldn't be getting what I really want, and then I would just end up buying it later and spending even more money. If you really want something, just buy it.
Right.
Or don't buy something else trying to fill that void.
Right.
Because if you want something a lot, you won't be happy with anything but that.
Yes. So you're better off paying the premium now than paying half or 2/3 or whatever, saving $50 or whatever, buying the one that you just kind of will accept, because eventually you're going to end up buying the one that you want.
Right.
And that one that you didn't really want, but is close enough, is probably not going to.
And if you're lucky, you can sell it more than you paid. But if you're unlucky, you won't. And then
take a bath on it, and then end up having to pay that plus.
You gotta remember, the guns aren't, especially old guns like this, aren't things you have to have. They're a want. So with that in mind, if you want something, get what you really want. Save up for it if you can't afford it, or just move along. But don't try to buy something you really don't want and try to convince yourself it's what you want.
Yeah, I think I see that a lot on the internet. And I hope we're not spinning your question out so far out from the original intent, but that's something I see a lot on the internet. It's that hyper defensiveness about this gun being better than that. Like, we've seen it a lot on the PSA AKs lately, on both sides, honestly.
See it a ton on ARs.
Yeah, ARs and stuff
both
like that.
Both sides again, yeah.
Where it seems like people have bought that already, and maybe they've settled on it as being good enough, but then that transforms itself into better than everything else.
Yeah.
And it's fine to appreciate what you have and like what you have, but it's a little bit ridiculous to start devaluing other things that are effectively the same, maybe even better.
Yeah, I mean, like I mostly own Colt ARs. It's not really because I think they're better. For one, the first AR I ever shot was a Colt, so sentimental value from my childhood.
Yeah.
For another, I just like them, but I don't. FN makes just as good of a gun. SIG probably makes as good of a gun, and I don't think the cheap ones, the PSAs, the Bushmasters, whatever, are bad for the money. They'll probably will be a great weekend gun, and you can always upgrade them. So cool, whatever floats your boat. I mean, I run a gun shop, so I sell all kinds, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Except IOs.
Yeah, right. Well, you have to have standards.
Well, I don't want to sell things that'll hurt people.
That's true.
At least not unintentionally.
Yeah. You don't have a destructive device license, so.
Yeah, so I can't sell IOs. They should really title them as all Title 3s.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that was the last of our questions. So.
Yeah. So, I hope we gave you a little bang for your buck. And again, we'll be back soon with a Patreon video, and we're working on fresh videos for late September, October. Jay's got some pretty cool optics videos.
Yep. Yeah, I did a red dot comparison where I just grabbed basically a few of everything that I had for the full-size red dots, because I've already done one on micros and prismatics, and borrowed a few as well to kind of show off in that. And then I also did a Russian optics video, which you guys may have seen in the little teaser that we did. And I just finished recording that and editing it together last night as I'm recording this video now. So hopefully that will satiate a few people on the Russian that have been asking for Russian optics.
Yeah, and pretty much everything we put on the table, or like this, we've got a video coming on the build talking about the Arms of America kit it came from. We just, like I said, posted a vid, just a little shooting vid for the Chinese Makarov. I've got one of the model gun comparisons featuring the T91 and a F-86 Saber Dog from the Taiwanese Air Force. And then this is going to be an interesting story about, gunsmith specials, and you're never too old to learn new things about surplus. And this was basically out because someone asked about slings, and I really like these Russian 12-gauge shotguns, both the Sega and the Vepr. It's just been really fun for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're working on it, guys, doing our best. Like a couple of you said, it has been a little dry, a little boring, having to try to get a little creative. Do have a couple new parts kits builds coming that should be fun, semi-auto conversions of subguns, so check that out. And not sure how much we'll be publishing in October, just because there's still a lot of life going on, but we will be doing our best to come out with fresh tint. Yep.
Yeah. So, well, thanks everybody for asking the questions. We love doing these. These are honestly our favorite videos to record, I think.
It's a rainy old day, and good for it.
Yeah, so thanks for everybody who's asked the questions. Again, if you're interested in asking a question in the future, $1 and up, any monthly contribution, you can ask a question.
And speaking of, I know several people have suggested going to this service or that service alternative to Patreon.
Yep.
We're not saying no, but right now there's a lot more to it than that. You have to give bank account info, and that's kind of scary, guys. And it takes time to set it up and make sure they're. So we're not saying no, but Patreon was once upon a time pretty gun friendly. It seems like a lot of these companies start off where they don't say much, and as they get bigger, then. So we'll see where it goes. But at the same time, we're basically doing this because we love guns, and we hope we entertain you. It's not about the money.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it never has been.
So don't worry about it. We're cool. And it's not like if we're not going to get Patreon, we would stop making videos.
No, we would still make
We're not holding it as ransom.
Yeah.
That helps us. Like, we just bought a big bulk of ammo to pay for the winter.
That was funded by the Patreon.
Yep. So that's really what you do. You just help us get ammo to go out to the range, occasionally buy new camera stuff or a new SD card like when mine broke this summer, but we will be doing videos regardless, so don't worry about that. And we'll look into alternatives come the future.
Right. Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. Appreciate you tuning in.
Yeah, if you have any other questions or comments, please post them in the comments below. Be sure to like the video. That
Share.
helps. Share, yeah. And if you're new to the channel for some reason, weird video to start with, but be sure to go subscribe and check out the backlog. Like he mentioned, we do a lot of historical videos, typically a lot of range videos, and just a pretty good variety of topics. And
yeah, and I try to keep the playlist up to date. I know a lot of YouTube channels don't really mess with it, but I've always found the playlist features to be great, so I try to keep ours. So if you like Japanese or Swiss, check those playlists out.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, guys. This is Misha.
And this is Jay.
And we will catch you very soon with more cats next time.
See ya. Now I'm going to run across the kitchen and turn the camera.